everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm going to talk through all of the books that I read in September. Now, I have a rather modest stack this time around, but I feel like given that this was the first month of school, I can forgive myself a little bit. This is something that I always struggle with. I don't know if any of you feel the same way, but since high school really, since I was 14, every September, I feel utterly barraged with busyness and I panic and I think, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to do it all. It's too much. I've taken on too much. And then in a month or so, I find my stride and I figure out how to balance everything and it's all fine for the rest of the year and I can relax. So given that I've been going through this for about 14, 15 years now, you'd think I'd have learned to forgive myself, but I'm still struggling with that, but I'm working on it. Overall, I read some truly lovely books this month though, and the first was Bellman and Black by Diane Setterfield. This is about a young boy, William Bellman, who one day kills a rook with his slingshot. And he and his friends are all rather unsettled by this at the time, but then they forget about it and carry on with their lives, as 10-year-old boys are wont to do. But as he goes through the rest of his life, tragedy keeps striking at William Bellman at every corner, and you begin to realize that he might be cursed based on what he's done. This is written absolutely beautifully. It has a wonderful Victorian setting. The idea of Victorian mourning comes in so beautifully and so creepily here. It fits absolutely perfectly. And watching him spiral isn't quite the desperate spiral that you expect it to be. It isn't overly dramatic, but the ending is still so impactful. I absolutely adored this. And I definitely need to read Once Upon a River, and I need to revisit The 13th Tale. I read it in high school, but I remember not quite getting it, so I want to revisit it now. The next book I read was A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood, which is the story of Lou in Cornwall, who goes to visit this old abandoned house that's nearby, and she loves stealing around it and hiding in all its nooks and crannies and imagining the people who live there. Well, one day the people who live there come home and she gradually falls into their world and forms friendships with them, possible romantic connections, but is their world really as glamorous and as wonderful as she thinks? And can she exist in their world and lose sight of her own friends and family? This was really wonderful. It's light and fun and engaging. I can only think to summarize it as The Great Gatsby, but with more likable characters. So if you're at all interested by the 1920s or Gatsby-esque stories, this is definitely a young adult novel for you. It also gave me great Ava Ibbotson vibes. So if you at all like her work, you will probably like Laura Wood as well. The next book I read was Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, which I had heard nothing but rave reviews about, and it is really wonderful. I was very pleased to read this towards the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th to October 15th every year. This is the story of Noemi, who is called by her cousin, or rather is sent by her father, to visit her cousin and her new husband at his family house. Her father has been receiving some disturbing letters from her cousin, so he sends Noemi to check in on her and to demand that she get the proper care she needs if her husband's family isn't willing to give it to her. Noemi is strong and modern and opinionated, but she has no idea the horrors that she's in for at her cousin's new home. This book is creepy. It has a lot to say about racism, eugenics, colonization, all couched within a Gothic horror, but set in the 1950s. It's so creepy that I almost don't want to keep it in the house anymore. Luckily, my friend wants to read it, so I'll be passing it on to him later today. It gave me very much Crimson Peak vibes as well. That, yes, there are monsters and other creepy goings-on, but it's not them that are the monsters. The people are. So if you are sparked by anything that I just said, I would highly recommend that you give this book a try. Next, I read She Rises by Kate Worsley. I have never read anything by this author before. I don't know that she's written that much, except for this novel. This is the story of Louise Fletcher, who is sent from a dairy farm to become a lady's maid to this captain's daughter. And she becomes enchanted with this seaport town and the way of life and the relative luxury that this family is able to live in. But she also begins to fall for her mistress. And at the same time, we follow the story of a young boy who has been press-ganged onto a naval ship and all of the hardship and all of the horror that he endures as he goes through. At first, I thought this was going to give me Bloody Jack vibes. I loved the Bloody Jack series by L.A. Meyer when I was in high school and college, which is about a young girl who disguises herself as a boy to work on a naval ship to earn herself a better way of life. And it has some of those elements. It also has very much Sarah Waters vibes. So if any of you love Sarah Waters' work, you will definitely love this as well. At times, the narrative seems to meander a bit and become a bit self-indulgent. I can't quite explain it more than that, but I was becoming a little bit tired. And then a twist happens within the last 100 pages that I did not see coming, but it made the story so good and so worthwhile. It completely turned everything on its head for me. And I loved it. So if you can find a copy of this to read, I would highly recommend it as well. And lastly, I have not finished this book, but I have been working my way through The Genius of Shakespeare by Jonathan Bate. This is very much what it sounds like on the tin. It's Jonathan Bate's literary study of Shakespeare, but it's not quite a literary study and it's not quite a biography. It's sort of at that midpoint. So far, we have discussed the sonnets and the truth and the lies and the mystery behind all of Shakespeare's writing. We have addressed the sonnets and why they may or may not have been published when they were, who the fair youth and the dark lady may have been, and discussing other popular theories and either supporting or debunking them with a variety of fact. Right now I am in the middle of his authorship controversy chapters, discussing all of the various theories that say that Shakespeare did not write these plays, that it was Francis Bacon or Marlowe or the Earl of Essex. And I love the way that Jonathan Bate writes. He will be going along pulling out all of this esoteric information to support whatever his claim is, and then throw in a quip that lets you know that he hates these authorship conspiracy theorists. And they're so incredibly funny, and I love every second of it. For example, I'll read you a quote off the back that perfectly illustrates that point. "Judgments about the quality of works of art begin in opinion. But for the last 200 years, only the willfully perverse and Tolstoy have denied the validity of the opinion that Shakespeare was a genius." I mean, that little bit of snark just makes it for me. However, I've only made it about 2 or 3 chapters in because his writing is so dense. It is well worth it. I'm looking forward to continuing, and I would highly recommend that you read his work. But it is very slow going because you want to really think about and take in everything that he's saying. So those were the books that I was able to read in September. You may have noticed I did not have my monthly classic But don't fear, I am definitely sticking to my goal of reading at least 12 because this month it's Victober, so I will be reading at least 4 classics this month. So I have definitely made up for my lack of classics in September. Let me know down below if you loved any of these books, if you're really interested in reading any of these books and would like to know more, if you have other recommendations for me based on what I've talked about. I love talking to you all down below, and until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.